Hello everyone, it's me, Seprix, and today we're going to talk about Mythgard, like the state of it, what I think about it. I've poured about 140 hours into the game. I guess we can check, see how much time I've actually spent playing. 143.7 hours. Now, I've collected a lot of the cards. I haven't played with them all. I've tried to play decks that people consider like strong, although I've mostly played mid-range and such, but I've seen enough games to where I feel like I have a decent idea of what I'm talking about. But there's still a lot to play and a lot to do, and I don't think anyone should take my word as like the gospel or something. So I'm more of a newer player, so you can take that with a grain of salt. This video, I feel like it's gonna last like at least an hour. It's probably gonna last 2 to 3 hours because I'm gonna talk about literally everything. I'm gonna talk about all the cards. Maybe not all the cards. I'm not gonna go down the list of every single card, but I'm gonna talk about all of the classes, what they do. I have this thing I've written up here. I'm gonna talk about all the paths and all the powers. What I think about them. Some I haven't really played with that much. I've seen them in action a couple of times, so take those with a grain of salt. I'm going to talk about what I perceive to be major problems with Mythgard and maybe some solutions. But yeah, like this is just State of Mythgard, what I think the big issues are and the not so big issues are. Okay, so I guess we're going to start talking about just the classes in general, so let's just kind of jump in. And I know blue's first, but we're just going to start with red, because red's very obnoxious, and everyone who's ever played more than like 5 hours of this game and played any competitive deck is going to know that like red is just insane. However, I think it's only the second best. I only think it's the second best class. And it's weird to call red like the second best class because a lot of the cards in here are just like crap. Like ankle biters, crap. I guess that's true for like a lot of the classes, but it feels especially true with red. Where it's like you have a lot of cards that are just like, maybe 2 expansions down the line they'll be really good, like Dragon's Teeth. Like, oh boy, you get to play this in some stretcher deck. Like, the stretcher decks are awful, though. Like, it can work if literally all of the cards line up, but, like, why? Why would you play that? But yeah, like, cards like this would probably be insane, potentially, and, like, 2 expansions down the road. So, like, there's a lot of cards that are like that. There's a lot of cards that, like, could be really good, but aren't. Like, this card. Like, this Muse card is just like, alright. Yeah. It just doesn't do enough, though. Like, it doesn't attack. You literally play it to draw cards. It's too slow in this game. Like, it's too slow. Like, it could be good, but right now it's just not good. There's the Stretcher. Cognate of Eratos. This is a cute card. If you're looking for a very, very specific card, it can be very, very nice, but there's not very many decks where you're looking for a specific card. And, yeah, there's just a lot of the time, there's just enough card draw in the game to where, like, this just feels weak. So, like, there's a lot of cards that, like, in here that have, like, potential, but, like, kind of fall flat because, like, they're just not going to be good right now, but they could be good later. Like, this is shit. This is really bad. This is pretty bad. Oh boy, give a minion piercing. Like, no one cares. Demise, deal 3 damage to minions in the opposing 3 lanes. Like, I could see this maybe working out, like, but no one really plays with it. But I could see it working out potentially. This card's just awful. It doesn't attack. It's literally just a blocker. Like, why? Why would you ever play that when you can just play Life Pop instead, which does damage and heals you? Like, it's just way better. So let me consult my notes here. Red's very aggressive. It's probably the second best color in Mythgard. I can't think of what else would be second best except maybe yellow. Yellow's very good too. Oh yeah. The way Red's playing out right now is it's not very diverse. Like you'll see a lot of the red decks like, alright, we run Pup. You run Daring Trapezist, which is probably... I don't want to say it's the best red card in the game, but it's probably up there. You know, you run Trapezists, you scroll down a bit. Run Iron Belly, run Panic Raider, run Shopworn Bull. Some decks run Red Carnival, depends on the red variant. Very few decks run this card, but some do. Pretty much all these decks run Oak. All of the decks run Wings of Abaddon. It's like auto-include. All the cards run Magnetar. Quite a few of the decks run Stairway. Quite a few of the decks run Gigamontia. And the ones that don't run this run like this, and some run both. So, like... But you notice, like, I'm skipping through all of these cards to just talk about these very, very specific cards. And I feel like Yellow has this problem, too, where, like... It just has cards that are so centralizing and strong that, like, a lot of the time you can just ignore the other cards. However, like, Yellow, at least, like, all of those cards that you're ignoring are playable to good. They're just not good enough in, like, the top tier meta. But, like, if you were a new player and you wanted to play a Yellow deck, you could at least play close to what you wanted to play. Like, I've tried playing Yellow-Blue on a different account just to, like, test stuff out. And I had pretty good success with it. Like, it didn't feel much different than playing, like, with the top tier Yellow cards, for example. Like, it didn't feel that much worse. Like, the Mythics in Yellow are so insane, and you have to get... That's the biggest problem with Yellow, I guess, is that you have to play with the Mythics. And if you don't, you're just dead. But we'll get to Yellow when we get to Yellow. Red, you could literally probably play a competent Red deck within 10 hours of playing Mythgard, because you'll just have a lot of the cards. Like, I think if you play story mode, you just straight up get Magnetar, which is, like, one of the key freaking cards in the red deck. So, you're already good on that front. So, you know, Red's a very, very good starter deck, because it's just, a lot of the cards that make it up are just these cards. And there's a couple cards, you know, like, that have, like, niche use. Like Barbed Bolts, I feel like more people could run that. Firesong Prodigy, I feel like more people could run that. I don't see that much of it. And I use it, and I like it, but... Blood Moon's a huge one. Like, your minions have life, tap, and demise, draw a card. Like red-orange decks running this, with, like, your, like, Parsa tokens and stuff, like, with orange. Like, red-orange is the dominant... it's considered to be the best and strongest class combo deck meta. I don't know what to call it. It's considered, like, the best color combination in the game, and I think I agree with that. Man, look at Blood Moon. That's insane. More decks could run that. Yeah. So, like, red has a lot of, like, aggression. It attacks you. But, like, the cards that all do that are very, very specific. Like, you're never going to see a deck like this running Carnilug. You're never going to see a deck like this running Iron Flesh Performer or Minotaur unless they're literally just starting out in the game. You're just going to see the very, very specific cards. And I understand that, like, net decking is real and, like, copycats are real, but, like, let's be honest, who's going to run Ankle Biter? Who's going to run Dead Man's Eyes? Like, oh boy, I get to play a unit in a predictable location that can be exploited. And if they die, I only have a 50% chance to draw a card. That's... I mean, maybe it could probably see more use than it does. I didn't even know this card existed until I got it. And I had a good idea of, like, what all the cards did, and I've never even seen this card. So, like, when I saw it in a... I think I saw it in, like... I was playing a bot, and a bot was playing it. I thought it was like a pre-alpha card that they just forgot to remove. It feels like it. It just doesn't feel like a card that really belongs. It doesn't feel like it belongs in red. It really feels throwaway. Same thing with Minotaur. Like, Minotaur is just okay. Like, look at Minotaur. It's a 1-cost red gem with 2 attack and 1 health. Look at Strogi Pup. 1 cost, uncommon, so you can play 4 of them, just like with Minotaur. And then it's got 2 attack, 1 health, except it's lifetime. It's like strictly better. It's literally better in every single scenario you could possibly. All right. Well, technically, if someone plays Temptation on the light, come on, you know what I mean. So, yeah, like Minotaur, like, why is it here? It just doesn't belong. It literally doesn't belong. Straight Fantasy, literally useless. Like, there's a lot of amnesia. Give a minion suppressed and lock its strength 0 until your next turn. That's like soft removal, but like, that's not really removal. Like, you're never gonna run amnesia over, say, Crimson Pact. Destroy a minion and you lose life equal to its strength. You're just gonna play that every day over the amnesia. Like, you'll never play amnesia. I feel like Calliope Muse could see more play, honestly. Like, yeah, it's pretty much it's a worse Shopworn Bowl, but like, I mean, you could see more of that, honestly. That's a playable card. But yeah, the problem with red ultimately is it's too like monolithic. This could change with expansions, but like currently a lot of the base red cards are like, you either play it and it's like auto include or you don't, and there's very few cards that like, all right, well, like the subtlety is really real with red. Like, you'll run 90% of the same cards, and some you just, you know, like, all right, well, I could run Gigantomachia, but because I'm playing with orange, I might not need it because I have Seal of Exile and Dark Passenger and all that. You know, you can make cases for things like that, but like, one of the main reasons you play red, I guess we should talk about the elephant in the room, is the rush keyword, and a lot of people complain about rush. I don't have a problem with rush personally. I'll talk about it a bit when we talk about the problems with Mythgard, but a lot of the reason people play red is for the rush effect. And basically, rush is it can attack, move, or act the same turn it's created, so you literally put it into play, and rush happens. So you get to attack pretty much to face immediately or trade. So it's like a soft removal spell, essentially. And with stuff like Journey of Souls, like, all right, I'm second player, I got my 2 souls, I play this down, I trade with your minion, and then I get it back immediately next turn. So it's like a massive tempo swing. Like, you don't lose any cards. You just basically delay a turn, and you clear the board and make it harder for your opponent to grab a foothold. I guess the other card we should really talk about that's obnoxious as hell is Stairway to Hades. This card needs to be nerfed, or, you know, better, potentially outright removed. Like, it's insane. It's really an insane card. But, you know, whatever. It's one of the best red cards in the game. Maybe it's, I don't want to say it's better than Trapezus, because there's a lot of decks that actually don't run Stairway because their goal is just to beat you down even faster than, you know, than that. Magmatar is insanely good, but it's easy to kill once you put it down. It's just really nice removal with the body. Yeah, like red could probably use a nerf with the most powerful cards. Like, for example, Trapezus has literally no reason to have 2 health here. It really should just have 1 health. Like, really, like, come on. It should be removable by literally anything. It's got some annoying durability there. Iron Belly Wyvern is a bit too obnoxious as well. I'm not sure how to change this one personally, but maybe get rid of the teleport. I'm not sure how to fix that one, but like, those cards are potentially annoying, but like, I can live with it. Like, this card should probably just be a 2-1, but other than that, maybe Pup should be nerfed, or, you know, I don't know. My cute suggestion is like to make Minotaur cost 0 mana but 1 gem, so like you can use it as a blocker potentially. Like, it still won't really see any play, but like, it's cute, and it's at least makes it different. It's like you're not going to play your opening that much differently. Like, let's say, like, okay, and that's not even true, because, your turn 2 could be different. You could burn a different color gem, play your Thane, and then play this on the other side. That could be potentially really annoying. And it kind of stays in, like, what's it called? It stays in theme with red, which is just a push advantage. So, I don't know. I think that's a cute potential idea for red. Yeah. There's just a lot of it's too static. Red is way too static. You run into the same problem with yellow, where it's just they're both really static. Like too static, because you just run the same cards in most of the decks. So you could probably nerf some of the most powerful cards, but mostly I would just say like buff a lot of the weaker ones. That would be my idea with red. Yeah. I guess we'll talk about blue now. Blue's pretty hit and miss. Like, blue's like about enchantment. Like, it kind of does a lot of all around. Like, you got a bunch of spells that are interesting, like Swift and Teleport or Frenzy, and then it dies in a turn. This card is one of the key cards in like insane bullshit decks that I absolutely hate and I think should be removed whenever possible, but I think this card by itself is fine. We got enchantments. This card's pretty heavy with the enchantments. Demolition Speedway is insane, but I think it's at a fine power level. It was a little too strong before, and then I think they did the subtle change of just making it cost one more gem, and then now I don't really see people complaining about it anymore. It feels a lot more manageable. Like, now you can't just beat people down with blue-red, where like you burn like a red gem turn 1, turn 2 Speedway, and you can't just play Speedway and this early game, so it actually really slowed down those decks, but you'll still see it a lot of the time. In my red-blue deck, I actually don't think I run Speedway at all. And by my deck, I mean Toonstar's ripped deck. But I did some tinkering, and I didn't feel the need to add this. So, there's that. Thane is like auto-include. This is an insane card. Very, very good early card. I hate it when it does that. Like, you get a couple cards that's like you play against the bot. It's like Ravine Guardian's really annoying to play against with the bot, but I don't think it's that good. Valkyrie Tough. Every time someone plays a Valkyrie Tough on turn 2, I just kind of groan inside, because it's like, how the fuck do you remove this? So, it's a pretty good card. Daughters of the Forest. Again, against bots, I just groan inside whenever they play this. So I feel like both of these cards could see more play, especially outside of Valkyrie decks. I feel like they could be played, honestly, a lot more than they are. Fosgrim's a pretty nice card. Frecky's Sidecar is probably a card that shouldn't exist. I'll get into that later. You got a lot of Valkyrie cards. Like, Valkyrie has like the most support, so like Road Queen's pretty nice. Storm Dortier's Chosen's a very, very nice card. Skilled Hacktivist seems really good at first sight. You're like, wow, I breach, which basically means you deal damage to the face. Or, so if you like do overrun damage and then the overrun damage attacks the player, you get to breach, essentially. It's like, this seems really cool, but like it's easy to remove, it costs a lot, and it's like, it doesn't do a lot of damage, and it's hard to breach with it. And if you're doing that, you're probably winning already. So it's kind of a win more card, which is too bad. Plus, fucking granny glasses. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Granny glasses? Braggy Runesinger. I cannot say how many times the Give Another Minion Frenzy has won me a bunch of games. And then the cycling is really nice. It's hard to remove. It's got warded. It does decent damage. It's a very, very good mythic. Not the best blue mythic, but I include it in a lot of blue decks. Bridgeway Troll is a massive enabler of annoying strategies with the teleport and the move action. So you'll see that a lot of the time with some decks. Although, I feel like it's still underplayed. I feel like people could play with it more. Junkyard Valhalla is a card people keep trying to make work, and sometimes it does, but it feels rather slow to me. Especially when like it's resurrecting weak minions. Like if it's resurrecting scary minions, you're like, oh fuck, you have to deal with it. But if it's resurrecting like your Thanes or like, you know, I don't know, Vroom Vroom Lady up here, Frecky Scout, Vroom Vroom Lady. If it's like resurrecting those cards, you just don't care, and it resurrects them, and you still can't play them until the next turn because it's like putting down a minion. Like, yeah, it helps, but like if you position this card poorly in the fight, your opponent can just fight on all the other side of the board, and like your minion can just sit there and be like, all right, I have to slowly inch forward towards the fight, or you know, like it's nothing more is going to spawn until you get your dredge killed. So it can be good, but it can also be just really slow. Kara Morning Wives is a very scary card. It can get out of control if you don't deal with it, which is why it's really nice. You can just put it down and say, all right, I'm buying time before I can play Magnus Thorson or Thunderclap or Giant Stairway. Like, you're basically, when you put this card down, you're putting it down as a threat, but it's more to buy time for later, because usually the opponent just attacks it and then gets rid of it, because if they don't, they just lose. So it's more valuable as like a time waster. But if, you know, once in a while your opponent gets cheeky and it's like, well, I can't answer it, or I don't want to answer it, and then you just go to town and then you just win. Tail Rootworm feels close to auto-include in most blue decks. Thunderclaps auto-include. Timberland Troll I feel like could see more play than it currently does. It's just outclassed by the other 4 costs like Thunderclap and Tail Rootworm. Winter Wolf, again, like Timberland Troll and Winter Wolf are both completely playable cards. I think they're good. It's just like Tail Rootworm, it basically does a slightly better job, but it also costs 2 gems and you need enchantments. So if you're not running those and you're running like a blue mid-range deck, I feel like these 2 cards are quite good. Winter Wolf will probably be a little bit better for attacking, but Timberland Troll is just obnoxious to deal with, and it heals too. So it's a good stall card or a good blocking card that does some decent damage. I feel like these cards are underplayed, honestly. Like, when I play against newer players and they put these down, like, I can't immediately deal with them a lot of the time. So I feel like they're underplayed, honestly. This card's shit. But you also kind of have to play it, because a lot of the time you just have to bounce a card because you can't deal with it that turn, so you just deal with it next turn. And yeah, the stats are awful, but like if it was a 3/3 for 4, it would be insane. So like, you understand the stats. So like, you kind of have to include it, especially against like disc decks, because there's you know, fucking obnoxious. You have to bounce the Necromantic Ephemeral card and get rid of it. Black and Jotun's pretty much auto-include in most blue decks. Giant Stairway is very good, especially with Black and Jotun. The thing I like to do a lot is play my Black and Jotun in like one corner of the room, and then my opponent's like, okay, I'm just gonna block it with this, and then I just slam down Giant Stairway next turn on top of it, and then just kill it, and then my opponent's like, oh fuck, I have to deal with that now. Jotun Shatterfist isn't a card I really play with, but I feel like it's pretty good. Magnus Thorson, it has an argument to be the best card in the game. I don't know that it is, but it's certainly, if it's not the best, it's like top 3. It's a very, very good card. Allfather's Horn is bullshit. This card should not exist at all. Cataclysm is I think it's slept on, honestly. Like, people look at the 3 blue gem cost in 6 and they're like, but like, it's not that hard to get the 6. It really isn't that hard. Hyperborean is a card I like a lot. Triassic Kraken, like, it's got some good stats, right? It's like a 6/6 with regen 3, but it doesn't have overrun, and Hyperborean does the same job but kind of better, and yeah, like, it's too underwhelming for like where it is, but like otherwise it'd be a fine card. Volcanic Rissy, I feel like doesn't get enough play. I don't play with it, but like, it's just really expensive mostly. I guess we can talk about some of these. This used to be broken, now it's shit. I don't know. It's really not that much to talk about. Okay, so what did I say about blue? Blue is very hit and miss. Yeah, I kind of agree. Although it's like, it's pretty consistent, like, all considering. Like, a lot of these cards that you look at, you're like, alright, Ensnaring Serpent. Yeah, it's just worse Fosgrim, but, you know, it's not bad. It's not a bad card, it just doesn't do enough. Again, Valkyrie Tough, you don't see that very often, but it's not a bad card. It really isn't that bad. Sons of the Pack's pretty shit. It's basically part of the Canines, but Canines are a joke. Root of the World, I feel like is eventually going to be part of a really good deck. Right now it's meh. There's a lot of spells that, like, this one's shit, but at least it draws a card, you know? Like, you ever played purple with, I already forgot the card. It's the card that gives you, like, the healing potion. I find so often I don't even play the healing potion for free, and so why would I play this ever? It's really bad, actually. Wow. It's really bad. Wow. Yeah, I feel like, this is kind of shit. This is really shit. Wow. There's some really shit spells, but like generally a lot of spells are good. Enchantments are nice to talk about. Like, this is, I've seen blue-yellow decks now where they run 2 of these and then Obama Ring. It's the Obama Ring, but I call it Obama Ring because it's close. Where, like, they run this with snakes and other units, and it's just, how do I get rid of this? It can be very good. I feel like this card's underplayed, honestly. Yeah. Let's see. I think blue's probably the best balanced color class in the game. Like, I can't think of too many tweaks I would do. Like, you know, there's not very many tweaks I would do with blue. Like, a lot of it feels, like, done. They clearly put the most effort into this color, I think. Maybe more than red. I think they put the most effort into this class, honestly, and it shows. It's very solid. It holds together. It's like Mario-esque. It's very all around. It can, you know, a lot of the cards can get a bit monolithic in terms of strategies and what you pick up, because, you know, that's just all your cards, because, you know, but I feel like blue is like, you can run a lot of stuff and it's fine. Yellow also has that, and I guess we'll talk about yellow now. Yellow is probably the 3rd best class in the game. So if we're going to do a ranking, I guess I'm having orange B1, red B2, yellow B3, blue B4, and then 5 is green, and then 6 is purple. So there's my ranking. I guess I'll talk about it because, you know, some people disagree. Yeah, I feel like yellow wins pretty much all late games because it's just insane with its control. Like, I feel like yellow's strategy is to survive the early game, just block a bunch, and it's got a lot of ways to slow the opponent down in the early game. Like, Yaoi is a great defensive card, cannot take more than 2 damage in combat, so it's gonna survive at least 1 swing, pretty much guaranteed, unless there's deadly involved, which is rare enough. It's got Blight, so there are a lot of cards with Blight that slow cards down and kill them, basically. Even warded, it goes through even warded, which is great. You get cards like Meso Libre that just, you will not attack for a turn, and then we're going to trade the next turn. Basically, this card exists to slow things down, and that's what yellow really wants to do, is to slow things down. Poxbringer, I feel like, is underplayed. I feel like Poxbringer is very good. It's just like there's a lot of cards in yellow that are really good, and you can't run them all. You really can't. It's like crazy how many good cards there are in yellow. That's usually a good problem to have. Volition is bullshit. We're gonna talk about that card later. Verdant Jungle, it's okay. Biameni Falls, I feel like is very good. Every time, like, it creates a lot of health for the for you when you put minions down. Yellow also has a lot of, like, defender minions. Typically, it's about defense, but defenders typically shit. Like, this card, you look at it, it's like, alright, it defends, which means it can't attack ever. But also opponents have to attack it first before anything else. You're like, oh, that's cool. And then you realize, oh, wait, no. It's not proactive enough, so it's kind of shit. Armor 1. So yeah, this thing will last a while. It's got life tap, so if people attack it, you get 1 health, basically, and it can't move. If it could move around, maybe it'd be a lot better than it currently is. I've tried playing around with it. I still have hope for it, but, like, there's just too many good yellow cards, and, like, you really want to pressure your opponent. Maze is auto-include in basically every yellow deck. If you're not including Maze, you're suicidal or you're just really innovative or something, because it's the ultimate slow-down opponent card. Your opponent wants to deal with this because if they don't, you're just going to get infinite card draw off of it, which is a good incentive to actually attack it versus just ignoring it like you do with the other defender cards. And it heals slowly, which is cool. It can heal infinite, but why would you do that? Because you want to draw cards. So it's a very good card, especially as a turn 1 play. It's an acceptable reason to not be proactive, in my opinion. Serpent Den, very good card. Wonder Drug is probably too strong. Probably needs to be nerfed. I wouldn't double the effect to 8 life. I would probably make it like 6 life. The 2 cards is probably insane too, but that can probably stay. Yeah, it feels a bit too strong. It's a little bit too strong. Like 8 life. Like, yikes, dude. Like, really? That much life? Maybe make it like 6 life and I don't know. Like, start from there. Versus Cycle is interesting. It's a good removal card. Enchant Eater, I feel like, is underplayed, but mostly that's because enchantments are just kind of, whatever. They're not obnoxious yet. Like, not every deck's going to run a bunch of enchantments. Like, they're rare enough to where I wouldn't run more than 2 copies of this in a deck to counteract enchantments, if you ever run into those. Thunderbird, I feel like it's underplayed. It could be quite nice. It really could. It could be a nice card. It's, the stats for whatever it is kind of weak, but it can do things. I feel like it's better than, I don't know. I might be wrong. Goliath's Web. It's fine. This card seems really shit, honestly. Olama Ring, again, Obama Ring. It's fine. Wow, I'm already getting tired. We've only been recording 30 minutes. We have a lot to go. So I need to shape up here. Magpire Sniper, I feel like is a pretty good card. It's just not as good as other cards. So you just don't see it being played. Like, Magpire Sniper is not going to be better than Misanthropia, which is usually around the time that you get overwhelmed by your opponent, around turn 5 for yellow, and then you just pop this bad boy down, and then you're fine. Like, a lot of yellow decks, the way I feel like, is like, you get swarmed early, you get attacked early, you're stemming it off, you're fighting off the forces, and like just when it gets annoying and too annoying to deal with, then you get Misanthropia and you pop this off and then clear the board, and then suddenly you're in control because you got Scourge of Serpents, Revelation of Zimic, you wear out your opponent's hand, and then you start drawing cards. You have Zolia the Unclean, God's Bane, Harvester, Twin Juna, Twin Other card, Sapo the Devourer. I just realized I'm looking at cards that only I own. They're cards that like I don't own that are also fine. Like Oh, this just shows the cards I need to craft. I want to show all the cards. Maybe I should go back. No, I'm not going back. But it will be important for yellow, because I still don't have all the cards I'd want to run. Like, I don't have both twins yet. I feel like this card's super overrated. Like, nah, it's okay. Model of Duality, I feel like could be played more than it currently is. Yeah, there's just so many good cards in yellow. It's like, it's really hard to... This card's insane in orange yellow. It is so good. Plague Maiden's decks are cute. Sometimes those are cool. Man, this card is so awful. A lot of yellow cards and a lot of green cards are, well, what can I say? They have strength greater than 4. Like, all these cards you want to play late. I guess this card could shut down aggression, but like, it doesn't. It doesn't really do that. And green's all about huge, massive units. So like, this card is just so like oxymoronic. It's so awful. Might be one of the worst cards in the game, honestly. And it's a mythic. So if you're really basing your strategy around this one card, yeah, you got a 40 card deck. That's a little hard to find. And it's expensive. And it doesn't attack. And it's a defender and immobile. It's so bad. It is a really bad card. I would say if you ever accidentally got it crafted or you find it or something, you could melt it down safely. It is so awful. Yeah, might be the worst card in the game. Like, it is really bad. It is so bad. Yeah, yellow has a lot of completely playable cards. Like, you could swap out Zelia. You know, you don't have to run all of these cards. You could swap out one of the twins for this card. You know, you could swap out this for that and that for this. This card's kind of bad, but you could still play it. It's fine. It works, you know. A lot of these cards, like, this card's fine. It's pretty nicely statted. Like, Orbital Jamming Satellite's a very good card. There's just a lot of good cards in yellow. Like, if you're missing, like, 3 or 4 pieces, like, you don't necessarily need those pieces to have a competitive deck. To, like, blaze through silver, you know? Like, you can definitely do that with yellow. So yellow is very versatile, but also at the same time, yellow requires a lot of mythics to play really well. So you want to definitely combine yellow with other colors. Like, playing monocolor is usually a bad idea. You can do it with red, but like, and maybe with blue, like with the Valks. But playing mono anything else, I guess you could play mono orange. Mono orange is fine too. But like playing mono green, mono yellow. Playing mono yellow is really hard. I wouldn't recommend it. Playing mono green is probably stupid. And playing mono purple is like, why would you ever do that to yourself? But yeah, playing mono red, blue, and orange are probably defendable. Yeah, I feel like yellow is pretty well balanced. It's probably, like, the control at the end of the game is probably slightly too insane, because what ends up happening is, like, late game, it's like, alright, well, yellow wins, so you're just waiting 80 turns for yellow to end you. And you're defending as best as you can, and you think you have a chance, and then like 20 hours in, you just realize, oh, I have no chance. So I could resign now or just play this out for 8 turns as they slowly grind me down to a halt. So I feel like yellow's a bit too control-y on the top. Maybe nerf that slightly. I don't know what that would mean. But maybe make it less effective somehow. I don't know. I feel like it's, you know, just a bit too control-y. Like, it's a bit too game deciding past a certain point, unless you're like on the toppest of tiers. Misanthropy is insane. Okay, I think we talked about yellow. Green, I'm gonna have I have a hot take about green because I've never really seen anyone say anything about green, but like I feel like green's really bad. Like I look at green and I feel like green's just fucking awful. Like really, really awful. And I think it's because it's centered around Grinning Kolobok. This is probably the single most like problematic card in green. It's like if you don't run this in your green deck, you're stupid. You're just straight up stupid. If you ever want to play green, you have to run 3 of these basically. And pretty much every deck. I'm sure there's an exception, but like, you know, like I think it's as close to auto include as you can possibly get for a card. So you play this down turn 1 and you get maximum mana, like forever, permanently. And you just outscale your opponent really fast. And that's the only reason why green's like any good. And that's probably a design choice they decided to do. But like, alright, I'm Mythgard dev, and I've made Grinning Kolobok a central pillar in green. Am I ever going to run House Elf? Am I ever going to run this card? Or this card? Or this card? Or this card? Probably not. Why would I run those? They're not Grinning Kolobok, so why would I ever run them? I could just combine green with a different color and use that different color's 1-drops instead. Like, I'm never going to run these other cards. Maybe I'll run this one. I might run this one. If I'm running an enchantment deck, I might run that one. Wake the Bones, yeah, I'll run that one. Overkill, I've seen 1 or 2 decks with it. Dora's the card everyone considers the worst in the game. I think Revolutionary Totem is worse, but like this card, you can at least play for 1 and it can block. Revolutionary Totem fucks you, and it's really expensive for a 5 blocker. And it can't move. This can at least scout. Oh boy, I get to look at my own cards and know what's coming up. You know, like, you can plan your turn around that. It's infinitely better, even though you will never ever run this in your life. But I kind of wish it did 1 damage. It would be playable. Probably okay then. But yeah, like there's a lot of good green cards, but like a lot of them are dependent on getting that extra mana from Kolobok. Unless you play a very, very specific deck, which is like, I want to say 80% of green. I guess we have to talk about the elephant in the room. This card with Disc of Circadia is probably the only reason green is relevant at the moment, other than with Kolobok. Because, yeah, Disc is a problem. I think Disc is a very, very big problem. And we'll talk about that. But like other than that, like you look at a lot of the cards and you're just kind of underwhelmed. Like, could be good. Like Circle of Protection, Detained is good. Detained is very good. Detained and Deported, very, very good spells. Double Think, it's okay. I guess it could work as some removal. Like, you know, it could work. Like, you know, you play it on a Sapo, but like takes damage equal to its strength. So like you could put a token minion in front of that thing and then he'll never feel like he can swing, because he just takes 8 damage for doing that. I wonder if this could be played more than it currently is. It probably could. Gallows Boy, I feel like is a pretty nice card. This card's okay. This card. Give a minion Agile and Breach, deals extra damage equal to your opponent's unspent mana. That's so awful. When are they ever going to have unspent mana? I guess in the late game. Maybe. Maybe in the late game. Maybe that's okay. Rewind Hex I've seen. Raid the Tombs. Pretty good draw card. Really cheap for good draw. Spirit Stones? I've never even seen that card. While this lane's occupied, enemy minions in the opposing 3 lanes have Ephemeral. Huh. Could be cute with hand bouncers. When the occupying minion dies, deal 1 damage to your opponent. If the minion was a spirit, return an enemy minion in the opposing lane to the owner's hand. Huh. That could be good maybe in the future. Right now it's god-awful, but that could be good. It is cheap. It's really cheap. It's not too much of an inconvenience to play. It really isn't. I feel like this card's underrun. Like, imagine Pup, but it costs 1 extra, and you don't even have to attack your opponent. So, like, if they put a Thane in front of you, which you see very often with Pup lines, like, you know, oh, turn 2, I'm just going to play a Thane right in front. You could play Sugar Plum and just steal 2 health with the Agile, and then, oh, well, now I have to kill you, and then they kill you. But you get 4 health instead of, like, 2 health. I feel like you could run that card. It blocks and it also heals. I feel like you could run that more than you currently do. Led Astray is pretty nice. Night Hag's insane. Night Hag's a very good card. There are a lot of cards in green that are like okay-ish. Avenging Alpha is just whatever, 6/6 usually. Boneyard Abomination is an incredibly problematic card, but it's not because Boneyard Abomination is problematic, it's because action givers are problematic. We'll talk about that when we talk about problems with Mythgard, but this is a card to think about. Gemion's pretty good. Bellavode's very expensive, but I think it's pretty good. Zmei Hydra's pretty good. Volokov Heavy is arguably the best 5 cost in the game. You put this down on turn 5. Actually, you put it down sooner than turn 5 because of fucking Kolobok a lot of the time. And then your opponent's just like, well, what the fuck do I do? It's got overrun, so I can't just block it. So, like, you're throwing minions in front of this thing. This card's actually, like, probably too strong. I feel like it's too strong. Like, if you got rid of Kolobok and, like, nerfed this card or got rid of it, I feel like green would be really shit. Like, really, really bad. Like, you get rid of a couple cards from green, and it's really, really bad. Whereas, like, other classes are like, alright, you get rid of Trapezus in red, like, yeah, it'll suck a lot, but, like, it can still survive. It can still do things. You get rid of cards in blue, it's like, yeah, okay, you know, yeah, that really sucks, but, like, it's still kind of playable, although, you know, you take away Magnus Thorson from blue. Well, you know, you still got your Thane, you still got your this, you still got your that. Orange, you know, oh, orange has got so many weapons. Yellow, again, yellow is fine. Like, yellow will be fine. It will suffer, but, you know, like, all the classes will suffer if you take away a key card. But, like, I feel like with green, you take away this card, or you take away Kolobok, or you take away, like, Necromantic. This class suffers really hard, like, harder than the other cards. I feel like it leans on this card way too much. Leans on Kolobok way too much. That's why I feel like this class is shit. Because it's like, you take away Kolobok, and a lot of these cards are just too expensive. It's like you're balancing this deck way too much on Kolobok, which probably shouldn't even exist in the first place, but if it does, you really need to, like, mitigate the maximum mana thing. Like, maybe make that not a thing. Traitorous Murmur, some people complain about it. It's fine. It's incredibly expensive. I think it's a fine card. Chort Stag, wow, insane effect. Overrun, Awaken, you may return a minion from your boneyard to your hand, and it can't take more than 3 damage in combat. Wow, it's insane, but it also costs 7. And there's enough card remove in the game. Like, you can live with it. Beast, yep, you can live with this. You can live with this. This is probably the best of them. Yeah. I know, like, you look at a lot of, like, green cards in isolation, and you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then you're like, oh, wait, is it? Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these cards are just terrible to not that good. I feel like it's... I mean, if you want to discount purple, I feel like this is the worst designed class in the game, and it's not even close. Purple's just too weak. This class is just, like, sinful. Like, this card shouldn't exist. Necromantic probably shouldn't exist. This card, with disc, I don't know, you could get rid of this or get rid of disc or something. You know, there's a couple of really good cards, but like for the most part, it's like, I don't like it. Let's see. So that's my hot take. I feel like green is really poorly designed, like really poorly designed. I feel like some people will really hate me for saying that. Orange is the bullshit class. Orange is, I think, easily the best class in the game, and it's, I don't want to say it's not even close, but red kind of gives it a run for its money. But like orange has so many like things going for it. You get conviction. Hey, Slayer 3 and Overrun. Like, you just get a card that just has Overrun, and you can just punch through and kill a big minion. Get Eagle Recruit. Just creates tokens. Tokens are great blockers. This card is, like, auto-include in pretty much every orange deck. Hey, if artifacts ever become a thing, man, orange has an answer for that, too. That's crazy. I talk a bit about artifacts later in this video, so keep this card in mind, I guess, if we ever get to a crazy artifact heavy meta. This card is way too strong. It's really strong. Alright, I play my unit. I play down my my beast or something. I just place a massive unit. What are you gonna do? Alright, I'm going to whip out a little token character. I'm going to throw this on this token. Oh, deadly. I kill. I trade. And not only do I trade, I draw a card. Seriously, I draw a fucking card. And it's not that expensive. It is so cheap. Just to remove a problem. I don't think it should draw a card. Maybe it should do something else. Maybe give like 1 temporary mana or something. I don't know. But I shouldn't draw a card. Like, I include this card in like all my decks because the value is just insane. There's just so many insane value cards in this. Ghoul is great against Necromantic Disc decks. Lamp of Wonders is better than people think. It's a pretty good card. I feel like more people should play with it. Mandatory Vigor is one of the problematic cards. We'll talk about it later. Salt the Fields. That's different. Enemy enchantments opposite your desert enchantments are placed with... That's so shit. Oh my god, that's awful. Maybe in the future that will be good. But oh my god, that is awful. You will never play that. Maybe... And that's a one-time shot. So like you have to have a desert deck. You have to play in a meta where enchantments are oppressive as hell. And then you play this. At least it's cheap. It really should be 1 gem. Like, yeah, that is awful. Spear of Destiny is good. Xerxian Hideout, I feel like, is underplayed, but it's also kind of slow. Like, the Insurgents are really expensive to play. Like, 3 mana and an orange gem for that. Probably a bit too expensive, but it probably should be that way too. Xerxian Recruiter's like insane value. Yeah, draw a card basically. Yeah, you know, once in a while you have sad feels and you don't draw a card. But you put down a card turn 2, has some decent stats, can't be easily killed, does some good damage, and it draws a card. Because why not? Desert Engine's like a meme. Not because it's bad per se. Uh-oh. Things are lagging. Okay, cool. Sometimes when it does that, my computer just crashes because it can't handle Mythgard and recording at the same time. So I was a little worried there. Yeah, this card's a bit of a meme because like everyone wants it to be good. It's got nice stats for a 3-drop, but yeah, it's not that good. Dire Benediction. I feel like this could be played more than it currently is. Cast on a minion, equal damage to its opposing player equal to its strength, and then lock its strength to 0. I read that weird. This, you play this on like a Sapo or like some other card, Yeah, you know, I feel like this is underplayed. This could kill. Like, someone's like, alright, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm playing my big minion. And then you just play this and kill them. I don't know. I feel like this card's massively underplayed. Man, I need to play with this card. I'm gonna keep that in mind next time I make an orange-red deck or something. Like, that's actually a pretty good card. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, is so I can like look at cards. I feel like this is massively underrated. Maybe I'm wrong. This card's pretty good with deserts, but deserts are kind of bad, so you know, take that for what you will. I feel like this card's better than advertised. Like, you'll never see anyone play with it, but I feel like it's got to be good, right? Like, you play this down, you put this down, and if your opponent doesn't answer, you just consume all of your gems next turn and just slam for 1 billion damage, like 13 damage just casually. That's scary. I don't want to deal with that. Insurance Broker, I feel like's pretty good. Resupply Caravan used to be like auto include in most orange decks, and now it's pretty shit, but also could be problematic in the future. If they nerf Frecky Sidecar, they're just gonna start using this card instead to do that bullshit, which is probably okay. This card's kind of cute. Minions created in this lane are immortal. Oh man, red orange with this card. Put this down and then like, ew, that's annoying. Serendipity Ifrite is insane. 4/4 for a 3. Like, what? That's insane. Shad Beast is a meme because of the noise it makes. Some people call it Scream Goat. I also call it Scream Goat. It's a great card. Orange is my favorite class. It's between orange and yellow. Like, I like how orange plays, and then I like how like yellow's thematics are. But I feel like orange is just too strong. Like, orange is just way too strong. This card can be nuts. It's underplayed just because there's so many great 3 costs. Parry at the Gates is my personal pick for best card, like best overall card in Mythgard. Like, it's not going to fit in every single deck, but like the value it gives. Alright, for 4 mana and 2 gems, you draw 2 cards, and you get to pick your second card after seeing the first card you drew. And it puts a 2/2 down. So you're blocking, and you're also drawing cards. Like, to compare, if you look at blue and like its 2 card draw, it costs 1 less mana. Like, you look at literally costs 1 less mana. Draws 3 cards. Draws 2 cards, sorry. 1 less mana. Spend 1 more mana, you get a body down, and you get to pick the second card. It really doesn't need the Divination 2. It doesn't need the Divination 2. Parry at the Gates could cost 5 mana and 2 gems, and it would still be very, very good. It wouldn't be the best card in the game anymore, of course, but I feel like it's really, really, really good. Like, it probably could be nerfed, honestly. Like, it's just so good. Scoin of Pride is very good. Seal of Exile is insane. Temptation's very good, although maybe a bit overrated now. Marty Core, I feel like not enough people run Marty Core, but Marty Core is just very good. And if they don't run it, like, it's like whatever. It's like there's a lot of great orange cards, so it's forgiving to not run it. To have it in back is insanely problematic. We'll talk about that later. My voice is starting to give out. We've just about hit an hour now. This card, I feel like it's overrated, but not by much. It's pretty obnoxious to deal with, honestly. Like 10 health, and it gets a free move action after you kill somebody else. Like, ugh, that's annoying to deal with. Lavish Proxy is overrated as hell. That's a good card, but this is another candidate for best card in the game. Like, you got 2 of these in orange, like 2 candidates for best card. It's just board wipe, and then you put a card down. It's just insane. Behemoth It's just a bit too expensive. Again, Herald of Pestilence, insane card. There's just a lot of insanely good orange cards. Like, it's very hard to find an orange card that isn't playable. Maybe this card. This card's okay. It's good for blocking. There's just a lot of cards that are just playable to good. You know, and then you get cards like this, which are just like, either make the top 4 cards of an opponent's deck ephemeral permanently, or the top 4 cards of your deck get +1 and +1 and are Zealots. Hooray? Like, okay. That does something in, like, my next 4 turns. That doesn't do something this turn, which is usually what you care about. You care about your immediate turn, because if you lose board presence and advantage, it snowballs really quickly. That's why that card's bad. Orange, what did I say about orange? Orange is very draw and removal heavy and has token minions, a lot of them. Has absurdly good minions in general. Has a near useless desert mechanic. I don't know if it's near useless, but it's pretty bad, I would say. But it's otherwise incredibly powerful in my pick for best class. Okay, cool. We'll talk a bit more about purple. And then we'll get to the paths and powers and what I think about them. Purple is, I think it's the consensus pick for worst in the game. It was what a lot of people felt, and then Mythgard released their stats for like the classes and stuff, and purple had like a 47% win rate, and every other class had like above 50 or something. So purple is pretty awful. But like, that's not to say that there's cards in here that aren't awful. It's just they don't tend to synergize very well. The effects tend to be pretty weak. There are some very, very good purple cards. There's just not enough of them, and there's not enough that are like scare you. Mind Freak, I feel like, is an underplayed card. It's pretty good. I feel like it's a very good purple card. Racer in Shadow is a very, very good purple card. One of the purple's best cards, actually. But like, a lot of these are like, this one, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Like, a lot of these cards, you just look at them and you're like, meh. Ghost in the System, I feel like that one's underplayed. I feel like you could play it more. But you're also spending a mythic on a 2-con. It's okay. Peach of Life can be very, very, very nice. Especially if you play like orange purple or something like Peach. Peach can be very strong. If you got a bunch of minions in your boneyard and you just draw a card and heal casually a ton of health, it can really help you survive. It's a very, very nice card. Red Cliffs, it's nice. If you occupy the enchantment, the enemy minions have their rush suppressed, so it can deal with red. But now kind of like red-orange is the big deal now, and Red Cliffs just isn't enough. Sword Saint, it feels like a near auto include with a lot of purple decks. Maybe not, maybe 70% include, because Biting Blade is just super nice. Like, you play one of these things and then you hold on to Biting Blade until you play like a Terragon or some big unit, and if your opponent doesn't respond to it, you just heal a shitload of health. It's very nice. 5 Spirit Gate is also a good argument for one of the worst cards in the game. It is so bad. It is such an awful card. Oh my gosh. You read it and you're like, wow, that's not bad, actually. And then you play it and it's super awful. Misfortune, overrated as hell, but it's not a bad card. Metamorphosis is just way too weak. It's an incredibly weak card. Like, best case scenario for Metamorphosis is, oh, I've run into a Volkov Heavy. Okay, well, I just turned it into a 2/2 electric. But, like, a lot of the scary threats, like, it's not like Temptation where you can play it and then, like, trade. This card's just, I don't know. It's just worse. It's a lot worse. I could see Mutton, honestly, being buffed. It's too weak at the moment, I think. Rogue Eidolon is a pretty good card. It's a very good defensive card. The Shinobis are just fucking crap. They are crap. Like, this card's okay. This is probably the best of them because it's got the stealth and stealth. We'll talk about stealth in a minute. Teleport, which is nice, and it's got the breach. Like, oh yeah, I get to deal 2 damage to anyone. So like, you get like ideas where like, ooh, I'm gonna be sneaky, and like, it's a really cool thematic card, but it's just a 3-drop with these stats, and given how hard it is for it to survive, let alone breach, it's just like, come on. It could be a bit weak. It could be a bit stronger. If it had maybe like 4 health or 2, like, this is a hard card to balance, right? Because like, if you give it Swift, then it's insane. Like, it's a little too hard to balance. It's a fine line balance sort of deal. Maybe if you gave it Swift and then it just did 1 damage in breach, it would be tolerable. It would still be obnoxious as hell, but it would be interesting. Maybe you just do 1 damage to anyone, and then have it have Swift, and then it can keep the stats. That's an idea. That might be too strong already, though. Stubborn Tengu. I feel like this card's better than what people think it is. Like, you just put it out in front of a big minion, and if they don't attack it immediately... Well, if they attack it immediately, then... there's the problem, right? If their minion's gonna die to this thing, why would they trade and give it to you for free? So it kind of slows people down. And then if you swing and trade, then it's something you kind of wanted to do anyway, because that's what it's made for. But then you don't get it back. So your opponent's literal best play is just to sit there and let you swing. Huh. That could be okay. I wonder if you could... I feel like this card's okay. Like, it's not game... it's not like a game winner or anything. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more decks that could run this that help you survive, because the thing with purple is, like, early game with purple, you just get killed. So, like, maybe this helps you. Maybe this helps you get into the late game a little bit better. Because I feel like some people are probably misplaying purple, but purple is also, like, really weak. Look at this card. Look at it. It's a 2/3. It costs 4 mana, 2 gems. Like, what? That's so awful. Oh, you destroy an unoccupied enemy and enchantment? Oh, who gives a shit? What if it's occupied? Then then it's fucking useless. These stats? Are you kidding me? These stats are horrific. This card, you look at it, and you're like, it's a 3/3 for 4, and you get 2 temporary mana. That's kind of shit. Decoy. Decoy's really bad. Nine-Tailed Vixen's pretty okay. It's a fine mythic. Pentacle of Flavors is a very good purple card. Very good purple card, I think. One of the better purple cards. White Moon Arena could be interesting later in the future. Warded interacts really nicely with it, so you don't lose any health. So it could be interesting. God of Gamers is just awful. It needs a buff still. This card's interesting. I feel like some people hate playing with it. I personally like it a lot. Spirit Away is a very, very good card. It's very expensive, but it gets rid of any minion that's a problem. It turns it into some shit defender, and then it shuffles it back into their deck so they can draw it later when they really need to draw a card. So that's pretty nice. Terrigan's probably one of Purple's best cards. This card's insanely good. Like a 5/6, and then you get this Adamant Pearl. You can throw it on to any minion for overrun. I want to make a note here, though. I think this card is infinitely better than Terrigan. I think this is probably the best 5 cost in the game, honestly. Like, it really needs to be nerfed. Like, I would play this over Terrigan, like, any day of the week. Which is crazy to say, because Terrigan's a very good card. But that's how I feel. That's really how I feel. I don't like cards that are, like, so absurdly strong that you would never play any card over that card in most situations. I think that's just bad game design. So, like, Yeah, yeah. I think this card's fine. It's really like one of purple's only like redeeming qualities. Celestial Dragon gets underplayed. I think it could be played more than it currently is. Jinsuk Dollmaster is pretty good. I think it could be played more than it currently is, but like it's so expensive. Like you have to commit hard to purple to play these cards. Lantern Colossus is pretty good. Baku Bogeyman I feel like is kind of weak. Like for its cost, like oh boy, a 6/5 that's unsuppressible and it's okay, I guess. This card can be very obnoxious, but like fuck me, it's expensive. This card is great, but again, fuck me, it's expensive. And you know, if your opponent's playing against orange, which there's a lot of orange, and you know, oh boy, I just removed it. All right, hey, good job playing that 8. I just removed it with like nothing. Lort is another cute card that I want to be good. Because you know, you banish the top amount of cards in your opponent's deck, just literally banish their entire card and stall them out. That would be so oppressive if that was actually good. So like in a way I'm kind of glad it's not good, but you know, can dream. A man can dream. Yeah, purple's kind of a joke. A lot of the good cards or in its mythics, its late game mythics, and its item class stuff is okay. It's alright. It's not great. It kind of tricks you into thinking you have more cards than you do too. So you tend to overplay your hand sometimes. Because you're like, oh, I've got like 5 more. Oh, they're all items that I can't really play. Whoops, I just misplayed. So like I feel like that's part of purple's problem is like tracking and like playing with your items. Like you tend to be sometimes more patient with cards. In the other classes, maybe that's just me, but also it's kind of because purple's shit. Secret, purple's really bad. Purple just needs general nerf. Purple needs general buffs. I'm sorry. Please don't nerf purple. Please don't nerf purple. Purple didn't do anything to you. Purple did nothing to you, Mythgard. Why did you have to kill it? Yeah. I guess we could talk a little bit about stealth. Like, stealth is a good idea in theory, but, like, how it tends to play out is, like, oh boy, they played this certain card of a certain color at the certain cost and certain gem count. I wonder what card that is. You know, like, it's a little easy to predict because you know how the meta typically goes. So, like, you're not really usually surprised. And usually the correct play with any stealth minion that's purple is just to attack it. There's really no, like, punishment minions where it's like, oh, if you attack it while it's in stealth, you know, like you get killed or something. Like they could have done that. They tried it with decoy, and I'm sure it would have been obnoxious as hell if there was like a minion that was like that. Decoy's like the only one where it's like, well, I just wasted an attack attacking the stealth minion, but it also costs 4 stealth and not 3 stealth. If it costs 3 stealth, I'm sorry, if it costs 3 instead of 4, I feel like it would be a lot more playable because there's a lot of stealth minions that people run at 3, like the ninjas. So you can mistake it for that, and then you can trade and get your temporary mana, and then you can play your big baddie out pretty early. That would make purple a lot better, actually. Probably just decreasing decoy's cost to 3 alone would make purple a lot better. But as it stands, yeah, purple's a card everyone wants to be good. But it's not a good class. Purple is absurdly weak, and while it has a number of cool cards and ideas, it ultimately falls flat because what it tries to do just doesn't work, or because the minions themselves are poorly balanced and don't synergize well. Worst class in the game, and it's not even close. Yeah, don't disagree with that. Alright, let's talk about the paths and the powers just very quickly. I net deck a lot of decks and I play around with them so I can like understand how people think about the game, and you know, I don't think I'm at the level yet where I can make my own deck like first try like that, but maybe after another 100 hours. So let's talk about these, right? Let's talk about disc. Like, what the fuck is disc? Disc is I don't like this path at all. This path encourages nonsense. So generally with a game, I like balance to be like here, where like, all right, you got your lower end where it's not very useful. Sorry, opposite camera. You got your lower end here where it's not very useful, and then you got your higher end here where it's kind of useful. But disc is like this, and this is completely unplayable, and this is like insane. You have to include it. So you got your necromantic decks, which are just, yeah, you include disc every single time. Just no questions asked. You include disc. You need it. Disc single-handedly enables necromantic decks, which are just, I think they're ridiculously dumb. But, some people like them. I don't think it's good for the game ultimately. And I'm explaining that now. Because just the way things scale, where it's like, yeah, they're like win really big, or you like lose by 1 billion. You don't want that. You want to tighten that window. You want to make it so that like you barely lose or you barely win, and you want skill to like decide a lot of that, and you kind of want luck to decide some of that too. But you don't want a big gulf where it's like, by turn 5 whether or not you've won or lost the coin flip, and a lot of what you do won't matter. Like, you don't want that. And disc is kind of like the path version of that, where if you run it in most strategies, it's just worse than everything else. But if you run it in like a necromantic deck, it's either really, really insane or really, really bad, depending on what your opening draw is. And you'll know by turn 5 whether or not you're fucked. I don't think that's good for the game. I think disc needs a complete rework, for the most part. Like, it's really bad when someone like tries really hard to create a disc deck, like puts in insane amounts of cards, and it takes literally orange like carrying the entire deck forward because of all the token minions you can toss, and then like purple with a bunch of token items you can toss as well. And then also it has a card called Hotel Barkeep, which lets you activate a power for free. Like, if it weren't for that specific card, this would not even work. Like, it's very, very specific. I think you want paths that generally are more playable than extremely specific. Fires of Creation also sort of runs into this problem, although mostly that's just because artifacts are shit at the moment. Yeah, like, it's crazy that, like, I feel like 2 out of 5 of these paths are almost completely unplayable, except for very, very specific decks, and I think that's very bad game design. I don't think that's good. I think that's really bad for the game. Again, maybe disc improves later on with later expansions. There's that. Maybe Fires of Creation improves, but I feel like all 5 paths should be playable. In a general sense, in the base game, just by themselves. Yeah, like Fires of Creation, you have to play with artifacts. I feel like this also needs a complete rework, because like it'll either be, right now it's god awful, but like one day there's going to be a deck where you play with predominantly like artifacts, and then this is insanely stupid and like broken. That's my worry. Is like, right now it's awful, but later it's going to be insane. And yeah, you want to deal with those problems before they happen, if possible. So maybe Fires of Creation gets a complete rework. I feel like it needs a complete rework, so that it's not completely unplayable, and then it's not completely broken. Like, again, you don't want those gulfs. You want to tighten the window. You want to make it so that it's tight. That's what you want. And Rainbow's End is like on the outskirts of that, but it's workable. Journey of Souls is there. Turn of Seasons is there. These 3 powers are fine. Paths. These 2 paths are not. These 2 paths are awful and just need to be completely redesigned. Like, I don't like their design at all. Journey of Souls is probably the second best, If it's not, Journey of Souls could be the best, but it could also be the second best. I think Turn of Seasons is the best, just because it's consistent with the draw. Rainbow's End can draw you cards, but it's kind of inconsistent. And then the Leprechaun Coin is pretty cool. And replacing enchantments with other enchantments and getting the cost is super underrated. I feel like people underplay that a lot. Foresight is easily the worst power in my opinion. It's so many cards just give you divination already. You're spending 2 money for this. Yeah, that seems bad. I would almost like it to say, like, I almost wonder if you could do Foresight where it costs 3, you divination 2 and draw 1 card, and you pay 3 to just draw 1 card. Maybe that would be too insane already as a power. But 3 is pretty expensive for a power. Generally, you want powers to not dominate games. You just want them to be like, I don't have a card to play, so I'll do this slightly weaker effect, but it balances out my mana so that I'm not completely fucked. So, I don't know. Foresight's probably fine. It's mostly meh. Like, with Rainbow's End, you can spend 2 money to guarantee draw an enchantment, but, like, that's not the most efficient use of mana most of the time. Because you just want to draw, like, enchantments, like, half the time without doing this to guarantee shit, so... I'm probably also underestimating looking at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. That could be useful. Impel is a lot of people's choice for best power. Impel is pretty good. It's very flexible. However, I feel like Infuse is the best. It's close. It's close. I like both of these powers a lot. I think Infuse is slightly better because if you just place your minions well in the first place, like, there's just a lot, like, if you just clean up how you place your minions in the first place, like, Infuse just does a lot more work for you on average than Impel. There are some specific scenarios where I just wish I had Impel, but there are a lot more specific situations where I just wish I had an Infuse. I do want to say, though, that playing Infuse early is generally a really bad idea. Like, if I have literally nothing to play and someone plays a Thane and I play a Pup, then I'll Infuse it and trade if there's just nothing to play. But otherwise, I'll just play a minion on the opposite side of the board. It's more important to develop than to play a power, and that's probably how the game should be balanced. To where, if you infuse a minion to, like, do a trade instead of developing more on the board, that's usually just losing. Because, like, you trade, you spent a mana, and you spent your turn trading, and then your opponent gets first move, where you want to play your minion on the other side of the board, and then you want them to trade, so you still have initiative, or at least equal footing when they play their minion opposite yours or something. Like, that's why it's a tempo loss, and that's fine. That's what you want. Reconstruct, I really don't know how to talk about this card, but it has a bunch of niche uses, but, like, not bad niche. Like, you can use it to chump block, to block things. In general, like, make it so that someone feels like they can't play a minion there. You can use it to put one down and then sacrifice it, like with Sacrificial Altar or Wings of Abaddon. There's a number of things you can do with it. You can use it to cycle through Boneyard minions faster to, like, get to your bottom. Like, there's a couple of cute little things. It's not the strongest. I don't think it's the weakest either. It's certainly niche, but, like, it's got uses. I don't think it's crazy. I think it's a fine power. Mend, I don't really know how to approach this one. I've seen it used in some yellow control decks. Like, the longer the game goes on, the better Mend gets. But, most games are short, so unless you're playing in control, I don't think this is very useful. And Smite is... I can't answer this. Smite is usually just a worse Infuse. So... yeah, it's... Hold on, I'm going to answer that phone. I'll be right back. Alright. Back. Sorry. So, Smite is just kind of a worse Impel. Typically, it just does less damage on average than Impel, and it's less flexible. Although in some hyper-aggressive decks, it is better. I think it's also a fine power. I think the powers in general are pretty pretty well designed, except maybe Foresight, and I'm probably just sleeping on Foresight. Foresight's probably just fine. It's the paths that I feel like are just not very well balanced. At least 2 of them. The other 3 seem fine. I guess we should let's see what we got. Alright, we'll wrap this up. We'll talk about some of the problems I have with Mythgard. And, yeah, that's it. Okay. We're just going to talk about the problems I have with Mythgard as a game at the moment. So, the issues I have, and they're not too many, but I do have some issues. The single biggest issues are the rush giving minions that give rush. Like you look at Frecky's sidecar. This card is the enabler of so much bullshit right now. It makes the game unplayable, basically. Where, you know, like when you're playing against this deck, where it like just feels so awful to lose to this card. Like they'll pop this down, and then, or you know, they'll play some big unit, or they'll spawn some big unit to like Necromantic or something, and then they'll just play this, and then like there's nothing you can do. There's no defense you can do. You just lose basically, because oh no, their Living Mountain comes out, and then they have Frecky's sidecar just pop out, and it's such an obnoxious fucking card. I hate this card so much. Some people say Rush shouldn't exist at all. I disagree. I think Rush is fine, but it needs to be cards that are specifically designed for Rush. Like Frecky's sidecar gives minions Rush that weren't designed for Rush. So it creates this really annoying situation where you can just lose and there's nothing you can do with a lot of these cards. Ringmaster's kind of a meme card. It's just really easy to remove. So you'd think it's fine, but like you know there's going to be some deck in the future where this is just absolute bullshit. So like this card shouldn't exist. This card shouldn't exist. Fast Lane too, I believe, is a card. You know? Fast Lane is terrible. It is a really bad card. But in the spirit of not giving minions rush when you play them, I don't think it should exist. Although you can make a case for this one surviving, I really don't think it should exist. So that's my that's a big problem. Another big problem is standard action. Let's talk about standard action giving cards. This card is All Father's bullshit. I fucking hate this card. I fucking hate Volition. I fucking hate Mandatory Vigor. These 2 cards you don't really see, but you know you're going to see them as soon as these cards, this card, and this card. Like as soon as these 3 disappear, you're going to start seeing these cards. And yeah, they're not as good. Yeah, they got more hoops to jump through, but they're hoops no one should be allowed to jump through at all. And what both of these things have in common is that both of them attack you and punish you basically for not like knowing in advance they're going to play it. Like if the game goes on for like 12 turns or, you know, 13 turns or something, and then they just play down a Boneyard Abomination on the opposite side of the board, it's got like 20-20, and then yeah, we're just going to play Volition on that, and then we're going to play Mandatory Vigor on that, and just swing at you, you know, and you just lose. Or Berserker Sickness. You slam that on there with a Volition, give it Frenzy, swing twice. Yeah, that's 40 damage. You lose. You can't defend against that. There's no way to defend against that without literally covering the entire board, which is just impossible. It is so impossible to do that. So that's the main problem. It's just you have no chance to react. You have no chance to react. So I think those cards should just be removed completely. Another solution I've seen considered is instants, but I think instants are just a UI nightmare to implement in the first place. It's like, how are you going to implement something like that without it being really annoying? Like, when you play a minion, I have to wait 5 seconds every time if they have an instant in hand? Or do I have to just wait 5 seconds every time just in case they have an instant in hand? Like, I'm not going to play Mythgard if that's what it is. So you have to find a better way to implement it than that. I haven't thought of anything, but maybe there is. I haven't played Magic, so, maybe there's a better way to do it. But, oh my fucking god. It's like an info leak. You'll know they have an instant in hand if you make it just so when there's an instant in hand and they don't react and you can't play cards or something. Like, and if you make it so that there's no info leak, then it's just obnoxious to play and no one wants to play it. So I think it's just bad game design all around to have, like, instants or something. But, and if you make it so, like, you play a card before they play a card, like, then it's a racing game where they play their card and then you have to click faster than them. Like, no, I don't like that either. I feel like this should be a thinking man's game. So, like, you should have time to think. So, yeah, I don't think instants are a realistic thing to implement. Maybe the devs are already working on instants. I don't know, for the expansions or something. But I feel like it's not a feasible solution. I could be missing something. There might be a better way to implement it. I've never played Magic Arena, so maybe there's a better way to implement it. But I feel like right now it's just any way I think about it, it's just annoying. So I think the best way to deal with those cards is just get rid of anything that gives standard actions or anything that gives rush to other minions that were not specifically designed for that rush. Another argument I see people raise is that, it's too late. It's like late in the beta. They can't change cards. It's too late. I don't agree. Like the devs are gods. They can do whatever the hell they want. They could change the game to Candy Crush tomorrow if they wanted. It would be stupid, but they could do it. And I think long-term health of the game is a lot more important than short-term stability. So, you lose some stability and you get some untested cards maybe, or maybe you just remove some cards and re-add them later. It's a little sad, but like, for long-term health, I think it's just imperative you just remove those cards. Like, I don't think the game is going to be sustainable if you don't make those cards basically impossible to have. Because I don't think you should ever lose a game because you couldn't react or defend. You just lose. And rush minions to some extent do this, but like, they have red, or they have yellow or orange or something, like they have red, so they're going to have rush units. They're going to have rush units. So while it's annoying to defend those, it's a lot more defendable because for a fact they're going to have it. Whereas, like, there's so many action givers and there's so many different kinds of decks, you don't know whether or not they're going to run it. And if you play as if they're going to run it and they don't have it, that stretches your play so thin, and you're basically going to lose every game that they don't. It's just not feasible. Like, you can't do that. So that's the biggest thing. Second thing is green is really, really poorly designed. Worst class design ever. Not ever, I'm sorry. Worst class design in the game, I think. Kolobok and Necromantic are just... Like, Necromantic and Disc are... Like, you fix Disc and Necromantic gets a lot worse. And then Necromantic's probably fine. So maybe it's more of a Disc problem than Necromantic. But Kolobok is the single biggest problem with green. You take away Kolobok and green just goes to shit. You try playing green without Kolobok and, like, tell me how well it goes. Like, I can't imagine it goes very well. Like, I can't imagine playing green without Kolobok and then not playing a Necromantic deck either. Like, playing green just straight without Kolobok or Necromantic Disc decks, I can't imagine it. I can't imagine doing something like that and expecting to survive. Like, I don't like factions that rely on one or two cards only to literally survive. I think that's really bad game design. So, I think green is way too top heavy. Orange is too strong. It does too much. You see some people complain about this. It's got too much card draw. And it's got removal, and it's got strong minions. Like, something has to give. It does too much, so it needs to be nerfed. Purple's too weak. It doesn't do enough. It needs to do more. just little balance changes. It's not. I don't think either are on the level of green, but I think there needs to be some balances there, definitely. There's some completely useless cards in Mythgard, such as Minotaur, that's just, like, literally useless. Like, literally useless. Like, you have no reason to have this card in the game. Like, you might as well completely change it. I guess another problem I have is, like, with some factions like yellow and red. To the extent green, I suppose, and blue. And this might just be a base set issue. This might fix itself as you add more expansions. But I would like base set to have, like, at least 3 viable strategies per color. You know, just maybe. Like, I think that's reasonable given how many freaking cards there are. I think it's reasonable to expect, like, yeah, I want 3 viable strategies I can actually win with at, like, high-level play. I think that's what they should be aiming for, the devs. Just with the base set alone. Instead of, like, 1 or 2. And I don't mean, like, marginally different. I mean, like, very different strategies. So, like, oh, I run this one card, but basically the deck does the same thing. And I don't think that's good. I think decks should do, like, 2 or 3 different types of strategies. There's too many centralizing cards. Like, they're running a red deck. You know almost for a fact they're going to run Trappeasts or Wyverns. You know for a fact they're going to run Magmatar. You know for a fact they're probably going to run, like, Gigantomachia or Hades, like with a 70% chance accuracy. You're going to know they're going to run all those cards. Oh, they're playing orange. Yeah, they're probably going to run Shad Beast or Ifrit. You know they're going to run this. They're going to run that. And I think to some extent, some of those are fine. But it gets a little monolithic when you see the same thing every single time. And that might just be a base set problem. Maybe that fixes itself with the expansion. But I feel like the base set should stand on its own. And I don't think expansion should be a crutch argument. Yeah, so I'd like to see some of the cards be stronger in general, and some of the stronger cards maybe be a bit weaker. You kind of want to make it so that, like, anything wins, essentially, as long as it's well made. You want to make a lot of the cards just stand on their own 2 feet. And there's some cards that just do too much. Like, there's some cards that just do way too fucking much. Yeah, I'm going to bring up one of my favorite cards, unfortunately, because I think it's poorly designed. This card does way too fucking much. It's a 2/3 for 3 drop, so recently, decently cheap. It gives units Fragile 1, so they're easier to kill, and then it gives them -1, so it's harder to attack. So this can be used for offense and for defense. What? That's way too strong. Serendipity, Ifrit. Yeah, let's do a divination. And then also have 4/4. That does way too much. That does way too much. So there's some cards that just do way too much, like, in terms of flexibility, and that's why they're favored over other perfectly fine cards. Like, let's look at blue 4-drops. Great example. You look at Timberland Troll. Perfectly fine card. 4/5, regen 1. You could play that and be fine. Winterwolf, 5/4. Perfectly playable. Swift, piercing. Pretty good attacking card. However, you're never going to see these cards because Tail Rootworm is marginally better in almost every regard. Yeah, it's got a 2/2 while occupying an enchantment. And you're not going to run blue without running, like, Speedway or Giant Staircase. So this card's just way better. So maybe it should have 1/1 while occupying an enchantment. But then it's just worse than this card. And that's just worse than this card. So, like, it's kind of weird. This card's kind of weird. Where it's probably too strong at the moment. Compared to this card and that card. And I don't know if you want that. I feel like you want to make it so that all the cards are, like, you don't know which one to run because they're all perfectly good. Like, orange kind of has that, right? Like, maybe the problem isn't that orange is too strong. Maybe the problem is that none of the other classes are strong enough. Because it's like, look at all these great 3 cards you could run. You could run Desert Engine. You could run this card. This card's a bit niche, but you could run it. It's certainly better than Timberland Troll in like terms of like scaling strength. If you have a Desert, it's pretty nice. Insurance Broker, Serendipity Ifrit, Shad Beast. There's just a lot of great cards you can run for Orange there. Maybe the problem is that there's just not enough options for the other colors, so that's why Orange runs all over everybody, because it's more developed. It could be an instance of that, honestly. Like maybe the question's less nerfing and maybe more buffing. Maybe we just need more buffing in general. I could certainly get behind that. But there are some cards that are just insane and need to be nerfed, which I talked about. Yeah. So like cards get centralizing when they do too much, like when they can do too many things and are very flexible. There's also efficiency concerns, right? Like you look at Thane. Look at this. It's auto-include. You have to include it. It's too good. It has 3 health for 2 mana, which is very good. 2 damage. And then whenever a enemy minion dies, it reheals. Now, I'm not saying this card's a problem, but it encapsulates my argument here that it's very, very efficient. Probably too efficient. Again, I think it's fine. But, like, you know, you'll take cards like To Heaven and Back. This card is probably way too efficient to exist. It needs to be nerfed. You know, like, you get cards like that, where they're either really efficient for their cost, so there's just no way you'll run anything else because it's just not as effective, such as with, like, the blue 4s. Like, you saw the blue 4s. Like, you saw them. Like, this card's just marginally better than this one and this one, which means you're just going to run this one every single time. And in some ways that's unavoidable, but, like, I don't know. Like, I think you want to make it so that these are more playable. And then this is just a completely different card, which is fine. Like, these cards are similar enough to where that might be a problem. Maybe you want them to do completely different things. Anyway, I think we're done talking about Mythgard. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with the next patch, because that's going to determine how much more I play this game. I've had a lot of fun playing this game, but now we've kind of hit that roadblock where I have all of those concerns that I laid out about Mythgard, and if those don't get fixed, or at least most of them don't get fixed, I feel like this game is not going to have much of a future. And that sounds crazy. It really sounds crazy. But, you know, we've seen this with other card games before, where it's like they have problems and then they don't fix it, or they over-fix it or something. Like, card games are very delicate, and it's entirely possible if they do everything I say, it ruins the game in a different way. And I fully acknowledge that. I'm just offering my ideas. I don't want anyone to take me too seriously here. I could be wrong about some things, of course. Again, I could be wrong about the green thing. I think that's a pretty hot take. It's only something I've kind of recently felt. Because, like, I always just looked at green, and I just always felt like, nah. And now I think I've put it into words why I feel that way. It could be wrong. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching my my Mythgard state of the game. And, yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you all next time. And, yeah, I'm still alive. Thanks for watching.